Despite barely missing the cut this week, San Diego County could still end up in the red tier soon. The new plan unveiled today that relies on getting vaccines to the right places.
Plus, all youth sports get the go-ahead to resume. The new deal getting all children back on the court and the field.
While state and federal governments are optimistic about our growing vaccine supply, distribution is another matter. What county leaders around California are saying about when everyone who wants a vaccine can get one.
ABC 10 News at 6 starts now.
Some new changes could help San Diego get out of the restrictive purple tier a lot sooner. Today, Governor Newsom unveiled a new vaccination plan. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Our ABC 10 News anchor Lindsay Pena reveals where more doses will need to go in order to speed up reopenings across the state.
Over the last year, 55% of those that have tested positive in this state have been tested positive happen to be Latino. 46% of the deaths happen to be Latino.
Those sobering statistics from Governor Gavin Newsom today as he announced the state's new plan to address inequities when it comes to vaccines. California will start doubling the vaccine allotment for communities hardest hit by COVID-19.
By providing 40% of all of the administered doses to those communities that have had a disproportionate disease burden.
The state is using its Healthy Places Index, which takes into account a long list of factors related to things like the economy, education, and access to health care. Those zip codes with the lowest scores will get priority. The state's My Turn vaccine scheduling website will also set aside appointments for those in affected communities. Once at least 2 million people in those areas have been vaccinated, the governor says the state will make it easier for counties to move through tiers.
Continuing to keep the tiers in place, but to do so in a way that allows us to move through them a little bit more quickly.
So far, the state says it's vaccinated about 1.6 million people in the target group and expects the 2 million goal to be reached within the next couple of weeks. Lindsay Pena, ABC 10 News.
And today, the state also updated its guidelines about the most effective use of masks and when to consider double masking. You can find that information on our website at 10news.com. The county also reported more than 500 new COVID cases today. There have been more than 261,000 infections locally since the pandemic began. The county also says that 17 more people have died from this virus.
A local coach who went to court to allow youth sports to resume says he has reached a deal to let all children play again. And that includes both outdoor and indoor sports. In order to play, teams will have to follow the same rigorous testing protocols as colleges and the pros. ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer De La Cruz reveals who the coach says will pick up the bill for those tests.
Nearly 1 week after youth sports had their first practice since the pandemic, Coach Marlon Gardnera is claiming another victory.
Today, for all high school athletes in California, Christmas has come early.
The Scripps Ranch High School football coach led a lawsuit to resume youth sports despite not meeting metrics set by the state. A local judge ruled in his favor last month, but in a new settlement with the governor's office, that ruling now stretches far beyond San Diego County.
The terms of the temporary restraining order here in San Diego, allowing all student athletes to return to play both indoor and outdoor, will now go into effect statewide.
Gardnera's son Noah recounting the first moments he stepped back on the field since his 2019 season.
It was so amazing. It was so fun to just finally be back out there with the team.
As part of the agreement, youth sports will have to undergo the same rigorous testing as collegiate programs. Governor Newsom vowed to cover costs for football, rugby, and water polo. In a partnership with diagnostic companies, Gardnera and the Let Them Play movement are making sure every program will be covered using money from the CARES Act.
No out-of-pocket costs. We're not asking school districts to pay for it. They're willing to come to you and provide that testing. So we truly have an opportunity to get all kids back in sports.
The settlement allows each player to have up to 4 family members attend games as spectators.
Nice hustle, Logan.
For players, parents, and more than 6,000 coaches who pushed to make this happen, this movement is bigger than winning any game.
This is will always be the proudest moment of my coaching career because it has nothing to do with sports. It has everything to do with kids.
Jennifer Dela Cruz, ABC 10 News.
The state is expected to release official guidance on the settlement rules in the next 24 hours.
Shortages of the COVID-19 vaccine have forced intermittent shutdowns of vaccination sites across our county. The Petco Park site is open again after that multi-day closure this past weekend. Right now, there is no word if it will need to close again this weekend. But while Petco remains open at this point, Scripps Health announced today that the Del Mar Vaccination Superstation will close on Saturday because of another shortage of vaccine supplies. It is expected to reopen Sunday. Local Catholic priests and deacons got their first dose of the COVID vaccine today. The Alvarado Medical Center helped administer those shots at the Diocese Pastoral Center in Claremont. Bishop of the San Diego Diocese, Robert McElroy, was on hand today offering reassurance about the vaccine.
So I urge people of faith, as an act of faith, as a service to God and neighbor, to get vaccinated, because you're not only protecting yourself, equally importantly, you're protecting those whom you love and our country as a whole.
In all, about 100 members of the clergy were vaccinated today.
As more people get vaccinated, doctors say there is still a long way to go before life returns to normal. And that's because researchers are still trying to figure out if the vaccine can prevent transmission of the disease. Right now, the CDC says even people who have been vaccinated should still wear a mask, wash hands, and avoid crowds. Studies from several other countries say it's likely the vaccine can slow transmission, but there are no solid conclusions yet. One key to getting past the pandemic is herd immunity.
Yes, we would need some amount of herd immunity before we can start to relax these guidelines. And so masks do still have to be in place and distancing until that time.
So far, nearly 1 million doses of the vaccine have been administered in San Diego. Just over 10% of the population has been fully vaccinated. You can track the latest developments on the vaccine rollout with the ABC 10 News app. You can also send us your questions about the rollout to tips@10news.com. You can find your app for free right there in the App Store. This just in, ABC 10 News has confirmed NCIS is investigating the assault of a female Marine at Camp Pendleton. The incident allegedly occurred Tuesday. The victim suffered non-life-threatening injuries and was treated and released from the hospital. The military did not release any further details of this incident.
The San Diego Blood Bank says it is in desperate need of donations right now, and its supply hits critically low numbers. The blood bank says ideally it should have at least a 7-day supply available. Right now, it says it has 1, maybe 2 days worth. All blood types are needed. You'll need to be at least 17 years old and 114 pounds to donate. The blood bank says it automatically tests each donation for COVID-19 antibodies, which can be used in plasma treatments for COVID patients. You can schedule an appointment on the blood bank's website.
Police are looking for the gunman after a man was shot in a San Isidro parking lot this afternoon. Police say the shooting happened around 12:45 at the pedestrian bridge over Calle Primera. The man who was shot was taken to the hospital. It's believed he was hit in the leg, but his injury doesn't appear to be life-threatening. Police say the gunman was with a group of 3 other men who all ran off. They say the victim is not cooperating with the investigation.
Community members are raising questions about why a San Diego police officer shot a homeless man who was eating food. That shooting happened last week near Horton Plaza. San Diego police say that the man had a knife. They released the body camera video from the shooting yesterday. It shows the officer, Kelly Besker, approach the man near the street corner. He has food in his hands and his belongings, they're on the ground. Later, police say the man grabbed a knife from his back pocket and brought it forward, releasing it as the officer opened fire. The NAACP calls the video troubling.
He told you that he was hungry. So where was the urgency? Where was the threat? Why didn't we step back and call the PERT team? Why didn't we call the K-9 unit?
We also showed that video to a retired police officer. He said the video doesn't always tell the whole story.
There are witness statements from people and all sorts of other things. Also the history of the person.
The San Diego County District Attorney's Office will investigate and decide if Officer Besker faces any criminal liability.
After a brief stay in San Diego, the Uss Nimitz has returned to the Pacific Northwest. The sailors on the Nimitz were deployed for 11 months, almost from the onset of the pandemic. And during that time, the crew didn't record one single COVID case on board. The USS Nimitz is home ported in Bremerton, Washington, across the Puget Sound from Seattle.
Alaska Airlines is launching 2 new direct flights that will put San Diegans on the doorstep of 2 of the country's most popular national parks. Starting in June, Alaska will fly nonstop from San Diego to Bozeman and Kalispell in Montana. Kalispell is right on the edge of the Glacier National Park, a beautiful place, while Bozeman is about a 90-minute drive north of Yellowstone. Those flights are scheduled to run through the summer.